Okay, I pushed record. That was the first thing on my list that I was supposed to do. So I did that. And hello, everybody, and welcome. We have people on Zoom and we have people in here in the classroom in Dean Hall. And there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 of us here and many others on Zoom. I didn't count how many are on Zoom. So welcome to the Museum of Culture and Environment event. I'm Carissa Terry. I'm the MCE director. And thanks for joining us. We're in Dean Hall. Dr. Jensvold is on Zoom on the East Coast. And there are a lot of other people on Zoom too. So if you're with us in the classroom, please help yourself to snacks and beverages we have over here. Or if you're on Zoom, help yourself to your own things to eat and drink. We're so pleased to have Dr. Jensvold join us and talk about patterns in chimpanzee drawing and painting. I'd first like to give a few acknowledgements. I feel grateful to be up here doing this, and it's not possible without a community of people, past, present, and future. I'd like to acknowledge and honor the people whose traditional lands on which CWU and the museum and this room where we are right now sits. We're on the lands that were ceded by the Pushwanapum and other bands and tribes of the Yakama Nation, people who have been on this land since time immemorial. We're honored and grateful to be on their traditional lands and give thanks to the legacy of the original people, their lives, and their descendants. I invite all of us to remember this afternoon. And I want to turn to others. Thanks to Limbeski, our permanent staff member, and all of the museum staff, student staff and interns who all help prepare events, including this one, and keep the museum open and running. So thank you all. Before moving to our main event, I wanted to share just a couple of things with you, and I'm going to try to share my screen. Oh, let's see. Well, maybe I won't, but I'll just tell you, I gave away my screen sharing ability. So I'm just going to tell you about some of our workshops that we have. So we have a basket making workshop with Master Weaver Bessie Bills. This is Weaving with Wapanai. If you're in the classroom here, I will send around a flyer. If you're on Zoom, we'll try to get the link up onto Zoom, and you can see in the chat. So this is next Thursday, November 6th, and it's out in the lobby of the museum from 5:30 to 7:30. And Bessie is a enrolled Yakama and CWU alum as well. So she's going to be joining us. It's free. It's open to everyone. The other thing is I want to make sure that we all remember in Washoe exhibit. It's still open. It's still up. And it's up through the first week of December. So it's in the main gallery of the museum. And it's about the history and legacy of Project Washoe and the Chimpanzee and Human Communication Institute at CWU. Dr. Jensvold was the curator on this exhibit, along with 2 other graduate student interns as well. And then we have a digital chimpanzee digital art exhibit that accompanies this talk. And it's out in the main museum lobby. We have a wall, so it's on the main museum lobby in there. It's up from 10 to 4 p.m. Now through Saturday. So if you want to look at that, it's got a lot of images that we'll see here, but I think others and videos and things that Dr. Jensvold provided us. Okay, so let's turn to why we're here today. We are here because Dr. Lee Jensvold is joining us from the East Coast via Zoom. She's the former director of the Chimpanzee Human Communication Institute at CWU, currently CWU faculty in primate behavior and ecology and anthropology, and research scientist at Fauna Foundation and Friends of Washoe. Dr. Jensvold will share her screen now and give the presentation. If you're on Zoom, we will have a little time at the end to talk for questions, into the talk for questions, and here as well. Please put these into the chat and we'll address them at the end if you're on Zoom. We're also recording and it will be posted on our YouTube account, the CWU Museum. You can go to go to YouTube and type in CWU Museum and it will come up. So Dr. Jensvold.
Thank you. Let's see. Can you see everything? Can you see my
We
slide?
can see, we can see.
Okay.
Perfect. And I'm
How's
gonna
that?
turn up the volume. Does the volume
Yeah.
down?
Okay.
Up,
Well,
up, okay.
okay. So all you can see is the slide. Is that correct?
Yes, yeah.
Great, perfect. And everybody can hear me okay. Thank you for that wonderful introduction. And thank you so much for hosting this and giving us this chance to do this event to accompany the exhibit. It's just really wonderful for Washoe to be honored. And today I'll take a moment. I'm going to try to not get today's the anniversary of Washoe's passing. She left this earth on October 30th in 2007. So it's kind of an apropos day for us to spend a little time remembering Washoe. The first thing I wanted to do was just briefly talk about, because I will talk about chimp signing, just take a couple of minutes to talk about Washoe, Tatu, Moja, and Dar, and how they were raised. They were cross-fostered, and that means that they were raised like human children in research that we know today is highly unethical and should never be repeated. But in the 1960s, Alan and Trixie Gardner at University of Nevada, Reno started this research after cross-fosterings when the chimps were on the Central Washington University campus from approximately 1980 to 2013. The chimps were immersed in ASL, so they were raised like deaf human children as opposed to um, training them. It was really an immersion, much like a human child is immersed in their language environment. They were treated like children as opposed to pets. The signing occurred spontaneously and naturally in all of the interactions that the chimps engaged in. And again, it was at the University of Nevada, Reno from 1966 to 1980. Um, there were no food rewards, and it was this immersion. Washoe was the first from 1966 to 1970. She joined the project when she was 10 months old. Washoe was born in the wild, caught by the Air Force, and then purchased by Alan and Trixie Gardner for their research project. And then they did a subsequent project with four other chimpanzees. These chimps were born in American labs, so they arrived when they were just a couple of days old. There was Moja, Tatu, Dar, and a chimp named Peely who died when he was about 2.5. And so the difference there was the language immersion began when the chimps were just a couple of days old. They readily acquired signs. The gardeners did a lot of different studies looking at the sort of the arc of the development of how they acquired their signs and how does that compare to the ways that human children acquire their signs. Not to say that the chimps were children, in fact, not, but that the way that human children acquire languages provided a benchmark for things like how quickly is their vocabulary developing? How many utterances are they combining their signs into utterances? Are they having a variety of different utterances? How long are the utterances? How complex? Do they respond? How do they respond to questions? How do they inflect their signs? So this is what much of the gardener's research did, and they found very many parallels in what the young chimps did as compared to humans. So that's just where I wanted to like establish that. That's why these chimps are using signs and the things that we'll talk about next. So we're going to way switch gears and talk about aesthetics. I'm an experimental psychologist, so it's taken me a long time to really lean into how we can study the chimpanzees' drawings and other creative works. And it's really talking about aesthetics and like what are aesthetics, how we position things. So you can see in the bottom left, there's a Zen garden, which, it's really about aesthetics. Um, this other picture on the right is, I was visiting my sister once and we're placing all of these different pots around. And does it feel good here or feel good there? That's sort of a sense of aesthetics. And there are certain patterns that appear in aesthetics, in human aesthetics that we'll talk about. And also, sort of interestingly, the two images at the top are are placements of stones by chimps in the wild. They do something called stone throwing, and you can see this log is filled with stones. Chimps repeatedly throw stones at the log. And it's this stone throwing that was discovered or, first observed within the last decade, and there seem to be some sort of systematic patterns. In this, you can see the stones here, and they're all around this tree. So they're using the same trees. So lots of interesting work coming out of that, and it makes you think, is this a sense of aesthetics, much like our placement of stones in a Zen garden or the pots in my sister's front yard? Um, in terms of marking and drawing, there's a couple of different things that are described when we talk about aesthetics and human artwork. One of those concepts is called balance. So if you have a line like, well, sometimes it just occurs in the work and you can talk about it in the work, and there's other ways to almost to elicit it. So in this image here, this was a chimp, a human drew the line here, chimps made markings on the other side. This page is balanced out, so there's a sense of evenly weighting throughout the page. This is an image of Tatu's that is, she named it Tree Berry. In this, we also can see balance in that the page is well balanced out. This is another image of Tatu's, another painting. She named this Go Car. And again, you might notice something in there that's balanced in that image as well. Corner marking is another thing that appears in human artwork. And this is a page in little brown spots because somebody got this back from a chimp. But the chimp did the markings in the corner of the page here. So that's a really nice example of that chimp would be Washoe, of doing corner marking. And this one also, while there's a central figure, there's also marking on the corner of the pages. Again, Washoe did this. Another thing that we see in terms of aesthetics is something called a respect for boundaries. So one way to elicit this, if the chimps are presented with a piece of paper that has this big square on it, the marks tend to go into the center of that rather than throughout the page. Note there's no corner marking on this. So this is Washoe's. This is Allie. Allie was one of the chimps that Roger Fouts worked with at the University of Oklahoma. This is Dar's. The human made the box, and then Dar did the drawing inside. Again, suggestive of this respect for boundaries. Here's another one. This came from Fauna. So I'm Fauna Foundation. I'm not sure the artist on this. I know that the human drew the circles, and you can see that the chimp placed the marks inside of the circles. When I saw it, I just grabbed it. It was like, I'm keeping that one. It's such a great example of that. And then here is another just coloring page from Fauna Foundation. And there's maybe a little bit of respect for boundaries, which certainly in the world of developing human artists, it's really about trying to stay in the lines, which is a respect for boundaries. If you present a chimp with a smaller mark, they tend to draw on top of that as opposed to marks being around the page. Cindy, another chimp at Oklahoma, she was presented with the page with the small square on there, and you can see where she put her marks. And Thelma, another chimp that worked with Roger Fouts at University of Oklahoma, who also happened to be Tatu's mother. And you can see again, her marks are more concentrated over that central drawing. And then these are ones more recently with Tatu. We did have collaborated with SETI, the People's Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence, in a project that they had done, making a simulated message from outer space that they presented to humans, and we presented that same image to the chimps to see how they would respond to it. Let me know if you want to know more about it. I know it sounds kind of crazy, but as I was putting together for today, I thought that'd be sort of fun. But you can see there's smaller marks. These little clusters were on the page presented to the chimp. These are all Tatu's, and then her markings tend to go more on top of those clusters. Fan pattern is another thing that we see in chimpanzees artwork. There's a great book by Desmond Morris he published in 1962 that talks about the biology of art. And so this is one of the images from that book, a chimp that he described and worked with named Congo. So that's the fan pattern. And this is Cindy, another chimp from the University of Oklahoma. Looks like the fan pattern there. And then this is graffiti that was at CHCI on the walls. And again, we're seeing the fan pattern there. And when children start to develop in their patterns of marking and drawing, at least in our Western culture, we talk about the different shapes that we start to see. So triangle pattern. This is a painting, Lucy, another chimp from the University of Oklahoma, very suggestive of triangular pattern. Circular patterns. This is another one of Lucy's. So Lucy was presented with the circle, and then she's got circles on top of that. This is Lucy's a painting by Lucy. Again, the circle there. Congo, again from Desmond Morris's book. We see that circular pattern. And here's Tatu this summer. Was doing some painting for enrichment, and you can see she started the circle pattern there. It's on the bottom left of the picture. Another concept that we see is this notion of threeness. It's part of our culture. We often talk about things in threes. I would get a little uncomfortable because there's a lot of anthropologists probably in the room, and I'm getting a little out of my wheelhouse. But we can see concepts of threeness like red, white, and blue, Father, Son, Holy Ghost. We've got the yin and the yang, but what's in between? So we can talk about threeness in terms of the chimp's work. This is one of Lucy's paintings, and we can see threeness occurring there. Again, another one of Lucy's threeness and color, and then the page is very well balanced. And then the other thing that we can think about in terms of the chimp's artwork is individual styles. So, Monet is different than Picasso. And so different artists have different sorts of styles. And we've noticed that with the chimpanzees' works as well. Tatu tends to be very detailed. She makes smaller marks on the page. This is one of her pictures. She titled this Red Bird. This is another one of hers. It's untitled, but it's an 8.5 by 11 page sheet. And again, the marks are relatively small on the page. Black and red are her favorite colors. So you can see she's also incorporated those. And we can contrast that to like Lulis. His marks tend to be very heavy. You can see he's done really broad strokes that actually go off the page. He titled this one Hurry Want. Here's another one of Lulis's. Again, it's a piece of notebook paper, and his marks are really big, and he's gone off the page with those. And then one of the things that we can think about with the signing chimps is, wow, I've shown you a few pieces that are titled, so they can actually tell us what it is that they're making an image of. And the gardeners described how the light bulb went on with that when the chimps were on the cross fostering project. Moja was drawing, and the caregiver said, you know, Moja put her crown down, and the caregiver said, oh, draw some more. And Moja said, finish. And they asked her, what's that? And she told them what it was. Here, Moja's signing bird to this image that she's just made. Bird is a pinching on the lips. So we can look at the chimp's artwork and see if there's one of the studies that I'll briefly describe is whether there's consistent schema. And this is not to suggest that these images are representational, but more if there's a consistent pattern within those images that share the same name. And so with bird, what often appears in there is kind of this V shape here. You can see it here as well. This is an image of Washoe's that she titled Bird. Here's another one. This one is Moja's, and you can see it here. And then this is Tatu's bird. I don't even think I need to point that out. We did one of the graduate students, Casti, looked at we had a collection of images that Moja had created where she was asked to draw certain things. So there were brushes. We had a series of bananas. There were apples, cups, boots, and they all were actually much like this one here in that they were on a black background. Actually, this image may be from when that study was done. So there was not a lot of color. You've just got the image itself. We we stacked those images, did an experiment getting humans to sort them and see if they could detect the patterns in those, and then subjected them to an analysis. In other words, can humans who know nothing about this detect similarities in the pattern? And we found that they could detect similarities with cups and also with things that were titled banana and things that were titled with boot. So these are the images of cups. So it means that when folks have a stack of stuff and they're told to sort them into what looks similar, in one of the studies, they were given a prompt like this one and said, hey, which ones look like this? And they often picked out the cups. And we had about 70 people participating in this. And so humans seem to be detecting that with the cups. With the boots, also they tended to cluster. So this is what they were shown these are the images that they tended to put with them, and those were all examples of boots. And with bananas, there were sort of two clusters. This is the example they were given. And then these ones they tended to put together, and these ones they tended to put together as well. So there's some evidence to suggest that humans can detect these schema as well and detect the similarities with those. And I think that is it. Got worried about time, so I talked fast. Time for lots of questions. Are there any questions?
Hello, Dr. Jensvold. My name is Jordan. Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
I love this presentation. This was so cool. Thank you so much for sharing today.
Mm-hmm.
One of my questions is you mentioned a little bit about Tatu having favorite colors red and black.
Mm-hmm.
How do you like know that they gravitate towards certain colors, or like do you just look at how often they grab like certain colors?
Well, they can tell us.
They tell you. That's so cool. That's really cool.
You can ask them what's their favorite color. And also with Tatu, she really likes black a lot. She always, when she sees the color black, if you give her a choice of crown, she would pick black. And she actually uses the sign black now for like cool. So if she's, she'll sign black about holidays, parties, people that she likes spending time with. So it's like she associates it not only just with her favorite color, but also favorite activities.
That's awesome. Yeah, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Mary Lee, I had a question.
Hi, Lynn.
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Okay. I love your artwork behind you.
Yes.
So Tati's still drawing, coloring. Have you noticed, like, how adults get older, we don't color and draw as much as we did when we were little kids. Is there a similarity between that with chimpanzees that, they do it more when they're little, or has that been studied at all?
I don't think anybody's really looked at that systematically, but I mean, she still colors just as much as she always has when she's given that, yeah.
That's great that she's
Mhm.
still does that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Enthusiasm on the part of the younger chick with the picnic.
Could you hear that, Mary Lee?
No.
So what was the question and all?
Oh, I was asking if you could discern a lot of enthusiasm from the chimps as they do the artwork.
Can you
Do-
discern a lot of enthusiasm from the chimps when they're doing the artwork?
Oh, well, I think some chimps get into it more than others. Definitely. Some chimps are not interested and some do it a lot. Another chimp who lived at Fauna Foundation, she really liked coloring and painting, and she liked doing it with her caregiver, and she would watch her caregivers do it. So I think there's definitely individual differences in that.
Mary Lee, I have a question.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Good to see you.
Yeah, thank you for sharing all this. This is wonderful. Curious, who did the graffiti in CHCI in the corners?
My guess is that was Moja,
Okay,
but that was a common occurrence to find pieces on the wall.
okay, I love that.
Yeah,
Anyways, she's making her mark.
right. She definitely did that.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Questions in the chat? Okay, so we have a couple questions in the chat.
Okay.
Let's see, I'll look at them. I'm gonna have to move my screen. Okay, so, with the first one is with the rock throwing, do they tend to put them in treed areas? Is it possible they are playing a game, or does this seem more like decorating?
Well, when they do it, from what I've read, they're definitely doing it in certain kinds of trees. So it's not just that the rocks are willy-nilly. So you could see that cairn almost. They tend to like build up into a panthoot in a display, and then they throw the rock. It often, if it hits the tree, it makes a noise. They do it during the day, they do it at night. So it's not like they're just carrying it and placing it someplace. They're throwing it, and then it's part of this display. And yeah, I like why would they spend the time and energy to do that? So I think that's one of the interesting mysteries of that. And then not all chimp groups do it. It's only been seen in one place in West Africa.
So the next question after that, oh, well, actually, there's somebody just put up there, associated with the rock throwing. Do the chimps do rock throwing alone or in groups?
It's alone. There's, if you Google it, there's journal articles that have been published that have lots of videos of it. So I don't have the reference in front of me right now, but probably if you Google it, you can find it.
Thank you. And then we have one more. Wondering if there are any overall differences between chimps' art and the art of other primates.
That's a good question. I don't know. I mean, I guess I talked about it in terms of human primates, but I would suspect that the other apes would be doing similar kinds of things, especially because they're able to hold crowns and paintbrushes. But I know, there's a whole world out there where elephants are doing artwork and birds. And so there's lots of people doing different art. I don't know if that anybody, first the question of naming them, right? You gotta have some sort of human symbol system in your repertoire to give you a name for that. But certainly other species are doing painting and drawing and that kind of thing.
Okay. Can you hear? There's a question here. Can you hear? I'll interpret. I'll say it again.
Back in the day, Washoe was teaching Lewis that she adopted and some signs. I'm wondering if is Tatu and Lewis, I assume, is still alive. Do they speak sign with other chimps at all? And
Do
they try and teach other chimps in their? Because I'm assuming they're not alone.
Do Tatu and Lulus teach other chimps to sign?
Okay, yeah, so first let's back up because I think I heard a little bit of the beginning of that, and I'm sorry, it's a square about the size of a
I know.
stamp. So whoever you are, if I know you, hi. So just to kind of give it a context, so Lulus acquired signs from Washoe. Washoe adopted him when he was 10 months old. Lulus had no sign language input from humans. It was only from Washoe and other chimps in Oklahoma. And he began signing in 7 days and has about 60 signs in his vocabulary. So the question was, yes, so the chimps at CHCI signed to each other. Clearly, Lulus was being signed to by Washoe and the other chimps. And yes, the chimps signed to each other. That's what Debbie Fout's thesis in the early 80s looked at chimp to chimp signing when no humans were around. She videotaped them that way. And so when Tatu and Lulus moved to Fauna Foundation, so they had been really immersed just in this really rich sign language environment at CHCI where all the student interns and the other chimps are signing. And so, I think that was probably a little bit shocking in the beginning, like what's wrong with them? because they sign to the other chimps a lot. They still do sign to the other chimps, but not as much. Because yeah, but in the beginning, like they were signing to them all the time. We have a publication that we did on that. And the other chimps, did the other chimps acquire the signs? No, they didn't. And they were all they're all adults. And I tried to learn French when I was living up at Fauna Foundation, and it was pretty hard. Would have been easier if I was young. So, we can acquire other languages much easier when we're young. It's the same, probably is true for the chimps. And the other chimps at Fauna, though, it was kind of interesting also because Tatu and Lulis arrived, and they arrived with their special CHCI caregivers that signed to them, because that's the other difference for them is the human caregivers at Fauna didn't sign. So we brought signers in, and two CW alum stayed for many, many years, and others came through. And but anyway, the other chimps would see Tatu and Lulis doing this thing with their hands, and whatever they wanted seemed to appear, bananas, cheese, milk, and they would watch with such intensity. It's like, what the heck is that secret code they've got going on there? So that was really interesting, the way they watched with such curiosity. There were two chimps who have since passed at Fauna that, would gesture a lot. They had been around humans a lot when they were younger, Spock and Jethro, and maybe they signed a time or two, but they didn't. Um, that's a long answer to no.
Thank you. We have another one in the chat. It says, with the red, yellow, and blue threeness paintings, did they have other color choices?
Yes. Hmm. So that's what they picked.
Question that might be related to that. Hi, Mary Lee, this is Lori. Good to see
Hi.
you. And
Hi, Lori.
probably you can hear me because I'm used to belling. But I was just wondering if you could tell us more about how they hold the implements that they're drawing or painting with, and were they also using like their hands or spit painting or other ways of expressing the art or creating that?
So you are good at yelling, but I think, are you asking about how they're holding? I couldn't hear everything.
Yeah, how are they holding the implement that they're using to create the art?
Uh-huh.
Do they sometimes paint with their fingers or feet or maybe spit paint or?
Oh, I gotcha. Okay. Yeah. So they're usually, holding it, and I maybe actually in the digital scrolling in the lobby, there's a couple of close-ups, and one's on the image that's on the talk announcement. It's a close-up of the hand. It's Tatu's hand. So, they're doing it more like this. And yeah, usually they're using their hands. They are doing more of a pincher grip rather than this kind of a grip. It is more of a pincher grip. And they are using usually whatever medium we give them. So like coloring. When they were younger, on the cross fostering project, the gardeners did finger painting. Um, but yeah, they use the brushes and then crayons, ink, like ink pens. I know Tatu though would like with a felt ink marker, she tends to like crack them open and then drink the juice in there.
Thank you.
Hmm.
Other questions? can I ask a question? I have a question.
Yeah.
This is Carissa. I have a question about whether they have a preference for certain materials. So do some really love to use crayons? Do some really love to paint? Is there a type of material is that they really love to use?
I have not noticed that, although I am sure that there are, just because I know that chimps have preferences, but I've never noticed that. It's sort of like, it's a little bit driven by the caregiver, rather than a modern art room class where you can pick your station. It's like, here's the crayon, so we're going to do coloring, or here's the painting, we're going to do painting, rather than which one would you prefer?
They never asked to do artwork?
Did you hear that question? Do they
No.
ever ask to do artwork?
Um, yeah, definitely. Tatu will ask to paint. Mhm.
What's behind, when they mark the four corners, do we understand anything about the psychology of that?
So Can
Yeah,
you hear that?
I did hear that one. So honestly, I haven't done a real deep dive into the corner marking, but I do just know in works where they talk about aesthetics, in human artwork, there is this concept of marking corners. So it's not just the chimps that are doing it.
Oh.
Oh, here's another question. Sorry, I didn't see this one. If they haven't been shown what to do with the paper and brushes or pens, will they use them properly or will they just paint or mark on all surfaces?
Well, sometimes they'll paint or mark all surfaces like the graffiti, right? And but yeah, I mean, the idea is that it's kind of a cultural thing. It's been part of their world. So I don't know if you took a chimp that had never been exposed to it. Actually, I'm thinking back to when Mark Bodemer went to LEMSIP and introduced different kinds of enrichment to lab chimps, and if if I remember correctly, some of them drew when he gave them crayons. But the idea is that they wouldn't know what necessarily to do with it until you gave it to them. Now, there is also this other thing that happens with chimps that are living in captivity. One of the sort of behaviors that we can see that shows us about the stress of captivity is fecal art. So they'll use feces to draw or, mark the walls, spread it on the walls. Hmm.
Oh, okay, we have one more question in here.
Have you tried, colored chalk with chimpanzees?
Yes, definitely. Chalk. We use chalk a lot. And that's another thing that's easy to mark in places besides paper, right? Works well on cement or wood.
Are there any famous chimp artists that just are way above the pay grade on the art?
Well, isn't that a matter of opinion? I mean, personally, I find Tatu a very talented and gifted artist, but
Other questions? Other questions on Zoom? Anybody have any last questions? Before we wrap up?
I just had one more. Mary Lou.
Okay,
So I remember when you were going around to other sanctuaries and, helping caregivers with enrichment and chimp behaviors, whatnot.
mhm.
I was just thinking, do you notice like that it has a calming effect when they're doing art? I think, in like some situations, people are using art therapy for humans. So I'm just wondering if you've heard back from any of the sanctuaries where the chimpanzees, maybe when they were first there, they were, you know, more stressed out. If they're given the choice of doing art, does it help them calm down?
They, I don't think so, and I don't think all sanctuaries would necessarily even use art for enrichment. You know, sort of depending on whether you want them to be doing more natural behaviors or not. I'm thinking to the Center for Great Apes. There was a little chimp there, and he would make masks out of leaves and give them to people. And definitely some places do art. Is it, there was another part of your question that I had an answer for, but I can't remember what it was.
Just if,
Whether-
if you see if it calms, like,
Ye-
is it a calming effect or does it get them more riled up or?
No, I don't think it definitely doesn't get them riled up. And one of the studies that happened at Fauna, actually, there was a master's student from I think York, but a Canadian university, and she did different kinds of sensory enrichment that's done with humans. So she had all of these different kinds of activities, like you know, making sort of like slime and jello kinds of things, different kinds of enrichment that were based on somatic therapy techniques. And it was interesting that some of the chimps really engaged in that kind of thing. And whether it was more attention from the caregivers, but there was definitely, you know, that there was a sensory thing going on, which in the therapeutic world, that's grounding and that sort of thing. So she really was just looking at what they were engaged in the most and whether the caregivers felt like it helped or not. But they certainly were, like, particularly Maya was really drawn to it.
Okay, we just have one more minute, and there is a question in the chat that asks, are there any videos of them doing the art that we could share with our students to raise awareness for their intelligence?
There are videos on Fauna Foundation's Facebook page, and if there's one in particular, they may also be on our YouTube channel. And if there's one in particular that's not on the YouTube channel, just let me know and we can try and get it up there.
Great. Okay, thank you so much, Mary Lee. We're gonna clap again. Dr. Jensvold.
Thanks so much. Thank you so much. Thanks you all for coming.
Thanks for being with us. I know it's late.
Bye.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right.
Bye.